Here we go. Rock, paper, scissors.
Hello and welcome to the $100 versus $10,000 Composer Challenge. Adam and Tom will be attempting to write a track to the same brief, with one of them only having Nucleus Lite at their disposal, whilst the other will have the entire Audio Imperia catalogue to play with. Is this even possible? How will the tracks end up? First up, let's decide the teams.
Right, ready?
Ready? Let's do this.
Okay. Rock, paper, scissors, we saying?
Let's do it.
Ready? Rock, paper, scissors.
Okay, here we go. Rock, paper, scissors. Okay.
One to you.
Best of three. Here we go. Rock,
One,
paper,
two.
scissors. Rock, paper, scissors.
Rock, paper, scissors. No! No!
Adam, I'm sorry. It's going to be an interesting challenge.
$100.
What does he get?
$100.
Nucleus Lite.
Oh, it's Nucleus Lite. I thought it was.
$100. Yeah.
Nucleus
You
Lite.
get everything, mate. You get guitar, you get everything. Literally.
My track better be good. It can't suck.
Okay, so here we are, the $100 versus $10,000 Composer Challenge, and I've drawn the short straw. But actually, I don't think it is a short straw because, look, it's great when you've got a huge template. It's really, really fun to sometimes just work with a small sound set and have to make the most of it, have to use all kinds of interesting techniques to really get the most out of it. And it can actually bring sometimes the best out of a composer.
In some ways, Adam has it a little bit, no, I wouldn't say easier, but he just gets to start writing and he has to use one product, one library in a really creative way. Whereas I have to use everything. I don't know if it's possible to use everything in one track, so I'm just going to use whatever, as much as I can.
So this is what we have to do today. This is the challenge that Ollie has set us. We're starting with an ambient intro. We then add a pulse element, and that's going to be interesting because we don't have any pulses. We then build up to a climactic section with a hybrid percussive groove. That's also going to be a bit of a challenge. Then we have a fall away, and then a crescendo to a finish. And we have to create a melody or a motif, some kind of signature sound or signature instrument using any library. Well, I've only got one, that's Nucleus Lite, or some kind of sound design. Again, I'm going to have to make that using Nucleus Lite if I do use it.
Library of your choice, yeah. Adam only has one. I have too many.
I'm also going to set myself an additional small challenge. I'm probably going to be doing a lot of sound design and custom sound design in this, but I'm only going to try and use stock plugins, in other words, plugins inside of Cubase at the moment, or free plugins. I may end up using one or two plugins that are kind of relatively inexpensive, but I'm not sure yet. But I'm going to try to do as much as possible, just sort of using free stuff. You know, the worst going to happen is that Ollie's going to shout at me, which is pretty fearsome, but you know, he's fine. He's a cool guy. He's going to be okay with it. So we're going to start with an ambient intro. Well, one thing that Nucleus Lite does have is pads. So it makes obvious sense to maybe try and find a pad. I'm thinking of doing something actually quite kind of aggressive and sound design driven because we have these pulses and these cinematic hybrid rhythms we have to try and get in. I'm almost thinking something like a kind of Mad Max Furiosa style, you know, Tom Hulkenberg thing. But I think we're going to go on the more aggressive side of things if we can.
Okay, let's maybe do some drone and high strings. I'm going to go to my pads that I have here. I have some photosynthesis patches loaded that I like. I quite like this. I quite like Abandoned. Let's start with this. Let's just do that. Let's extend it. And maybe we can have this right at the end as it's kind of ringing out, maybe. Just to about here. Something like that, maybe.
That's really cool. I love the depth of that one, how deep it is. It's got all this great evolving stuff going on. That's a cool one. Bar one, kind of lay in these sounds. Try and find a groove. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. I'm thinking that. What have we got in our atonal perk? Let's take a look. We've got these tam-tams. So we've got some hits here. Something like that might be cool, right? And I'm thinking about already treating this with some kind of cool sound effect. I'm thinking something like, maybe something like a shimmer. So we have this stock shimmer inside of Cubase 14 now, which I haven't been using too much, but I've been playing with it a little bit and it's really cool. I mean, that's kind of interesting, right? Just right off the bat. We'll probably need some kind of roll up into that moment, but that's easy enough for us to do. Do we have rolls inside of Nucleus Lite? So we don't have any rolls, but we can make a roll. That's easy enough for us to do, I think. What can we get away with? If we do maybe 32s here. Groovy. Okay. How does this sound? See, that's kind of interesting, right? It's like, it doesn't, sounds a bit weird. It's a bit machine gunny, but that could actually work. This is going to be a lot of just messing around with things until we find interesting grooves.
Distorted drones, what's going on here? We're just going drone central right now. Massive. Now let's have a look at maybe some synth plucks. Oh, this could be a layer for this. Let's try that. And maybe from this we can actually create that signature sound motif maybe. Just added this, added a bit of drive with the synth warmer. Going to do the cutoff filter here. We're going to automate that so that we can just make sure this builds up to where we want it here. I'm going to take a little break in a bit. I think I need to kind of step back from this because I'm going down, my mind's really in this synth route. So I'm going to probably take a listen to this and think I'm going to just add a few things. Like I'm already thinking like high strings, maybe harmonics or something in the intro to fade in with the intro, the pulse, and then build up to the groove. And maybe I'll start recording again once I get to the kind of hybrid percussion groove section and talk about my thought process of how I'm bringing that together. We'll go from there.
Now we're going to find some kind of high pulse. I'm going to show you how we're going to do a pulse because it won't be all that easy. But let's first find a pad that's maybe higher that we can filter some stuff out of. Boost some of the highs. Maybe add a bit of distortion. Ooh. Yeah, just a little bit. Now, the secret sauce here is going to be this really great set of things called modulators. There will be other plugins that can do this kind of thing. It's not, what's happening is a very, very old-fashioned sound design technique. This is how a modulator works. You can see we've got this going on, this kind of shape, and I can assign it to anything, so I'm going to assign it to the volume. Now, what we should get is this. Cool. Now we can maybe just up the distortion a little bit on this to get a bit more aggression. That's pretty cool to me. So let's see how all this sounds. Yeah, nice. We'll carry on with this and I will show you where we get to after a little bit more work.
Alright, here we are, day 2, and we're going to carry on. So I've got a couple of new things that I've added. In the intro, I have this, which I filtered out the low end. Need to add a boom there. That's going to be the next thing I'm going to add. But then we have these plucks that I added, and I wanted to hint at a kind of motif that will be in throughout. Might even do that halftime, maybe. We have kind of a big section here where everything comes in with that motif. What I'm going to do actually, now that I'm listening back to this the next day, I'm going to go halftime there, I think, like bam, 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 and then a big crescendo. I think that would be sick. I don't know exactly where yet. That's just what my gut instinct is telling me, and that's what you kind of need to follow as a composer. You get to a point where you can trust your intuition with that kind of stuff, and it's usually going to be right. If your gut's telling you something, that's usually what you need to do, even if it requires more work, which this will now.
Okay, so I've left this track quite a few days. You know, life gets in the way, but we're back. We're working on it again. I'm excited to get this finished. Now, I have done a little bit more since the last time. I put some strings in. So let me show you the strings I put in. I put these high strings in, which as we go through, increase in volume. Really simple, just creating this nice little kind of dramatic edge. And then we've created this kind of pulse by taking these low strings. And then we have done some modulation on the low strings. If I just show you what's going on here, have a look at this. Oh my God, it's making my eyes go weird just watching this. But basically there's these new modulators inside of Cubase 14 that you can use to modulate different effects. And then the end result is this. Really nice. And I've just used this free kind of spatialization plugin to really focus this down the middle. So we got this really nice middle sound. Before, after, just focus a little bit more down the middle. So let me show you where we're at overall. This is what we have so far. So that's where we're at.
I definitely need some string ostinatos here. That is really seriously needed. The low strings can do what the low brass is doing. For this, I could actually just use the marcato patch in Dolce, which means I don't need to use key switches, which is great. It's okay, it's not the best, but it's getting there.
No, do you know what? That's just not working. What am I even thinking? I was going to do all kinds of cool effects to that, but no, it's just not going to work. Let's have a listen to the whole thing and just see if we like this transition, if we think this is working. Yeah, I really like that. I think that's cool. We're obviously going to need to do a lot of work here with some percussion and some like a lead line or something. But the idea is really nice.
Definitely needs some strings there. All right, I'm gonna finish this off in a bit, but it's pretty much there. Just need some short strings in the kind of finale section, a better transition into that finale section, a boom right at the beginning, and maybe a couple of little textural things in the intro, and then just make the outro, maybe have another little ba, 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 ba. I'll try that out, but that's all I need to do. It's maybe an hour or two total. So yeah, I'll see you when that's done.
Okay, so we're on the final part of this now. We're pretty much done. So let me show you my sort of big idea for this piece, if you like. First thing I've done is I've taken a simple brass ensemble. Let me just open this up and show you what I've got going on here. It's a brass ensemble from Nucleus Lite, of course, and it's just playing one note that I've held for a period of time. Pretty straightforward stuff. I've exported that to audio, which you can see here. What I've done is created this sampler track. Many DAWs have sampler tracks or samplers that you can import audio into. So what I've done is I've taken this audio, brass ensemble audio that we've exported. I put it in here. I created some sample start points. Let me just come in here and take off all of the processing here. You'll just see if I play this, it now plays at different pitches. Pretty nice, right? Now we have it as a sample. Now I've done a couple of things. I've gone into monophonic and legato mode and used some glide. What that does is enable me to create this cool synth sound. So it no longer sounds like a straightforward brass instrument and we have all this weird, cool, slidey stuff. So I can do this kind of thing. which is pretty cool. Then what I've gone and done is basically distorted the heck out of this. First thing is we've got this quadrifuzz, then we've got distortion, so 2 types of distortion, then a little bit of reverb, not too much, then a tiny little bit of the shimmer. Again, these are all plugins inside of Cubase. They're all just stock plugins. Then we've got the destroyer, which is more distortion. Then we got a tube compressor to keep it all in check. And finally, we have some EQ, which I'll turn on. That makes it sound like this. So this is cool, right? We've got this really grungy kind of interesting layer, which I'm still just kind of working with and trying to get sounding how I want it to sound. Let me show you how I think this can work. Now, I'm still figuring this out, but if I just play some random stuff. Get an idea. It's all sounding pretty messy at the moment, but you can sort of hear what I'm thinking this thing can do.
So I've added quite a lot of stuff since you last saw me, but I basically finished this off now. So we have a bunch of different things going on. We have percussion's pretty similar. I've just added some whoosh hits to places to make it a bit bigger. So this is the low percussion. Actually, let's do all the percussion. And then here going into this section, you'll see this. And then same going to the finale section. Pretty punchy. We've got some of these hits in here just to add a bit more punch. What else have I added? I've added these things from Trailer Guitars 2, just bounce them in place. Just works with this and adds something a bit more to the percussion, for example. Let's do the percussion on its own without, and then I'll add this in. Nice, isn't it? The lead parts are from Jaeger. They're the pings, and I've just processed them a bit. So without any processing, it sounds like this. I've just pitched it down as well. Now let's just put, wow, that's intense. Let's put the pitch shift on. I'll just turn everything off, but I've left the pitch shift on. And then after a bit of processing to get rid of those resonant low frequencies, mids. Way better, right? Yeah. In the intro, wanted to add these vocals in here because that's something that Adam won't have. He won't have beautiful legatos in these solo vocalists. So in the intro, we have this from Jaeger. Stunning. And then soprano angelic from solo. That's just layering in with that motif that's in the signature sound. Already here, it's quite quiet. And then string short, expanded the pattern a bit. Later on, I've added in another octave. That's the violins now. And then up here, you can hear the violins doing that. Again, the motif. So in the strings long, we have marcatos in Dolce Violins 1, as well as the legatos in some places where it makes sense. And then this legato layer here throughout. And then the marcatos in the cello and basses, which are fantastic. And also some constrictor strings. Can't forget about that. Some really cool textures added with this. Kind of using constrict to add a bit of interest, right? Big moment. Yeah, it's just nice. And then with these downers and risers from constrictor really help add a bit more movement and sonic interest to rather than just a downer that I added. Here we have this break with the kind of sound design hits as well as some booms and the strings as well. Kind of come together nicely, I think. If I just solo the strings, like the shorts and everything together, this is what this is like. I think that's pretty much everything. I might have missed something, but I've just mixed and mastered it to my taste as well, and just to make it loud enough and everything. But yeah, this is it. I think we'll leave it there, and let's go and see what Adam and Ollie think.
Okay, the time is here. The boys have done their tracks. It's time to have a listen and be an awful judge. How do we feel? How was that? Hard? Tricky? The best thing you've ever done in your life? You never want to touch these libraries ever again?
So I think in some ways I would have preferred to be in Adam's position.
Wow.
Whatever he creates, as long as it sounds...
Can we just cut back to how happy you were that you won the rock, paper, scissors? Yeah. And that also doesn't bode well for the entire catalogue that we've just given you, and now you're like, no, I don't really want any of it, I just need one.
The catalogue is amazing. It's just the immense pressure you have to showcase an entire catalogue in 1 minute. If you do anything subpar, then Adam's is just going to be significantly better because he's the underdog.
It's true.
If his is anything that is just above, like, good, then he's just smashed it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I only realised that this morning. I was like, damn it.
Adam, was that the case for you? Were you like, oh, you know, I don't really mind if it comes out rubbish?
No, I see what Tom's saying, because I felt liberated, because like you said, it's like, as long as you can do something kind of musical with it, you know, then you feel like you've achieved it. I mean, I'm not sure that I have done that, mind, and I've taken a slightly unorthodox route, but yeah, it was good fun. It was good to use the light libraries again. I did feel a little bit like the pressure was off because I didn't have all these incredible libraries to work with. I just had a few really, really good, but, you know, straightforward light libraries.
Wait, hang on.
What?
How many libraries did you use?
Just Nucleus Lite.
Okay. The way you were saying that sounded like...
Oh, no, I wasn't busting. Oh, yeah, here's Array Lite. No. Just Nucleus Lite.
Okay, right. I thought he'd blown the whole challenge up then. I thought we were going to have to call this $400.
Just Nucleus Lite. And I'll explain how I've used it.
Okay, right. Okay. Just Nucleus Lite. Okay, shall we start with that one? I think we've got to start with the cheap one, haven't we?
Oh, don't say it that way. Not cheap.
Okay. Let's start with the one that isn't the entire catalogue. And just, by the way, our entire catalogue is not $10,000. I don't know what it is, but it's not that. So we're just using the premise of this video to just be one versus all. So, yeah. Thanks.
Are you going to asterisk it like the Thunderbolts, 10,000 asterisk?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Right, let's have a listen. I'm so excited for this. Wow.
Wow, indeed.
That is very, very cool.
I went Furiosa Mad Max route and just added all my... Oh, by the way, also, just to say this off the bat, I used only stock or free plugins. So I didn't want to make the thing of saying, oh, here's a library and I'm going to use $20,000 worth of plugins or something. I just used stuff that was in Cubase or free stuff.
So that's where the other that's how we fill out the $10,000. It actually is 10,000 because I've used loads of other plugins.
Exactly. yeah. I went and spent an entire credit card's worth on plugins to make it work. No, it was all free stuff.
Adam, that is so cool. Super, super cool. All just Nucleus Lite, you said, yeah?
All Nucleus Lite. As I said, I did use some plugins to manipulate it, but they were all stock plugins, so I thought it was all, in keeping with the game.
That's really cool.
How did you create the pulse? That was really cool.
The pulses were done using a simple thing called chopper. And also there's these great things now in Cubase called modulators where you can modulate the volume of a track.
Nice.
So I use them just to literally be switching the track on and off really fast. I did sample the brass ensemble and put it into a sampler track, which is where that lead line comes, where you get all the kind of like gliding legato stuff,
Yeah, the weird like bend. I was going to ask you. Yeah, fantastic. Well, beat that, Tom. Goodness me. Okay, all right, let's have a listen to Tom's.
Are we going to listen?
Yeah, great. I'm so excited for this. Whoa.
Beefy. I feel I'm ready. Wherever you're going, Tom, I'm coming with you. I'm leaping into that battle.
Yes.
That was. If anybody asks me why we do what we do, it's tracks like that. That was so cool.
Thanks.
So did you literally manage to use everything? There was so much clarity considering you had like 24 different libraries to use.
I just tried to do like, how would you do, rather than just the sake of using absolutely everything, how would you, if you had the whole catalogue, how would you write a track with it? And that's how I kind of did it. So, using like Dolce for the string shorts, but layering it with Araya so that you have the kind of contrast between the two. Then percussion, it's like Cerberus, Jaeger, sub-booms from Nucleus, things like that. A bit of chorus choir there, but not overtaking. Yeah, what else was there? I think it's like Talos, brass, bit of Jaeger stuff. And then a lot of legacy.
Yeah.
Photosynthesis for a lot of the kind of lead lines, and
the sound design stuff really like adds another element.
And that's where I think photosynthesis and Jaeger were a lot of the sound design things and like the synth stuff. I think that's one of the biggest strengths. Is I still think photosynthesis, and I'm not just saying this, I genuinely think this, I think photosynthesis is massively underrated for what's in that.
Well, there you go. Photosynthesis has been out a couple of years now. Don't forget, owners of the original Photosynthesis do get a discount. So if you haven't had your discount, hit us up and we'll get you sorted. Wow, guys, that was amazing. Very important question though, Tom. What did you use for your signature instrument? How did you do it?
Yeah, it was a ping from Jaeger, and then I processed it with some plugins like EQ, bit of I think saturation and distortion, bit of reverb, things like that.
Yeah,
then the other signature sound that's kind of in the intro and the outro that's playing the same motif is from Photosynthesis. So I kind of had two different things.
Fantastic. Well, I definitely think Nucleus Lite held its own, Adam, but I'm not sure it could compete with that. I think Tom has won this one.
No, I think Yeah, that's fair. I think that's fair.
I just want to listen to that on repeat now. Can you just make it 4 minutes long, please?
Yeah, that was also the challenge. How do you showcase everything in 1 minute? If this was a 3-minute track, I think I could showcase even more stuff. Maybe we'll do that next time, expanding these tracks.
Great. That's the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed their journey. I didn't get to see any of that. I just get to hear the final bits. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how these tracks are put together. Join us next week. We'll have another video for you, and see you soon.